The holidays are upon us, and let's face it, we all have our favorites. I have a coworker who lives for Halloween, friends who get excited for Friendsgiving, so their take on the Thanksgiving holiday, and what child doesn't look forward to Christmas? Well, according to the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission, cooking fires remain the number one cause of residential fires, with most of them occurring on Thanksgiving. They also report 160 decorating related injuries each day during the holiday season, most of those involving falls. And according to BestLife, online fraud attempts spike approximately 14% between Thanksgiving Day and Cyber Monday alone. Now, for those of you living in Florida, I'm sorry to share that alarms.org has a Sunshine State as the worst state for holiday crime, with a crime score of 81.5, which in layman's terms is more than twice the average holiday crime score nationwide, which is around 32.9. So, how can we prepare for a safe holiday season this year? Well, we have two experts with us today. First, that's where I'm going to ask how to pronunciate your name. I forgot to ask that.
It's Judy Echavez.
Echavez.
Yeah.
First, we have Judy Echavez, who serves as a public affairs specialist and communications coordinator for the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission. She is an Emmy Award-winning broadcast journalist with more than a decade of experience. She's worked on air and radio and television and has covered news in various markets, including Miami, New York, Hartford, and Los Angeles. Prior to joining CPSC, Judy worked for the Department of Homeland Security. She graduated from St. Thomas University School of Law in Miami with a Juris Doctorate and a Master of Law in Intercultural Human Rights. Thank you, Judy, for being here with us today.
My pleasure, Holly. It's great to be here. And thank you for sharing some of those data points about holiday safety. And we'll get into it a little more in just a few minutes.
Looking forward to it. And second, we have Amy Bryant, who has served as the Crime Prevention and Community Relations Specialist with the Sandy City Police Department in Utah since 2001. Now, according to crimegrade.org, Sandy City is in the 94th percentile for safety. That means 6% of cities are safer and 94% of cities are more dangerous. Amy currently oversees programs such as Neighborhood Watch, Night Out Against Crime, and Volunteers in Police Services. Last year, Amy was assigned to the Sandy Police Department Gang Task Force to work with. A community there had experienced an increased level of gang violence, and she did an amazing job. Amy graduated from the University of Utah with a bachelor's degree in sociology and a certificate in criminology and corrections. She did an internship at the Utah State Prison and then attended the University of Louisville Crime Prevention Institution, where she graduated to certify her as a crime prevention specialist. During her time at the police department, Amy has developed programs and initiatives and implemented community outreach forums such as Volunteer in Police Services, the Neighbors by Ring app, nextdoor.com, hashtag Sandy Secure, and many others. So thank you, Amy, for joining us.
Thank you so much for the warm introduction. I appreciate it, Holly, and I'm happy to be here with both of you and to be talking with Judy as well. She has lots of experience, and so just happy to be here and share our knowledge to help your listeners stay safe this holiday season.
Awesome. So let's dive right in. Many are going to find themselves in their car this holiday season, right? Whether it be driving around the trick-or-treating carpool or visiting family on Thanksgiving or even a trip for Christmas. So Amy, how can we prepare our car for this holiday season?
That's a good question. I would say from a crime prevention standpoint, when you're talking about your vehicle during the holidays, a couple of things to keep in mind to prevent vehicle burglaries, where your vehicle, somebody breaks into it and steals things from inside, and then vehicle theft, where somebody takes your actual entire vehicle. So vehicle burglaries, some things to keep in mind this holiday season is that a criminal is going to look for the crime of opportunity. So with vehicle burglaries, keep your doors and windows locked. Make sure there's nothing of value in the vehicle that can be seen. If you do have packages, because it is the holidays, you want to make sure that those packages are very well hidden, or simply take them home after each shopping stop. so that they're not in your vehicle. If you do have those packages, make sure that you hide them and secure them prior to your next destination so people aren't watching you put those packages in a hiding spot, and then break in when you walk away. So make sure to do those things. Park in really well lit areas that have a lot of foot traffic. That will prevent your chances of a vehicle theft, burglary, a vehicle burglary. Also, it's good to be aware of your surroundings. Where are you parking? Is this a good area? Do you need to find somewhere else? Is it worth parking a couple extra blocks away in a safer neighborhood and walking to your destination? Make sure not to leave your wallet, your purse, anything at all in the vehicle. People will break in for anything, even a couple cents change in the console. And then with vehicle theft, just make sure, don't leave your vehicle running unattended. Remove the keys out of your vehicle always. Keep it locked. You can invest in alarms if you want to secure your vehicle. Those things will really help secure your vehicles. Also, if you can park in a garage and then secure the garage, that adds an extra layer of protection.
Oh, that's all great tips. I know my mom used to always tell me other ways to in addition to just all the parking and things like that, which you just mentioned, she would tell me things like, make sure you have gas, like that it's filled up more than halfway, because otherwise it can get frozen or you can run out, and that becomes a safety issue in itself. Or I always forget the what is that called, the little snow and ice scraper. I always forget that. Again, that presents another safety issue. So there's so many things that we often don't think about that go well above and beyond that for our car safety. So all of those were wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, according to an article on House Beautiful, 27% of the US who celebrate Christmas start decorating before Thanksgiving, and the majority at 69% wait until after Thanksgiving. Now, of that, 25% of those being the day after Thanksgiving and 24% being at least before December. So, Judy, how can we keep safe in our homes during these holidays?
Well, Holly, that's a great question, because as you pointed out, there are lots of injuries that occur during the holidays, 160 each day. When I read that statistic, I was shocked too. During the holiday season, I thought that was like, okay, maybe 160, not each day, but like,
overall.
during the holiday. Yeah, overall. But so I thought it was a little bit crazy, but that's what happens when you don't take safety, seriously. And you don't want to celebrate in an emergency room with your family. You want to celebrate at home with your friends and your family. You want to, have a gift giving time, feast, festivities, all that lovely stuff. So a couple of things that I want to point out. First of all, if you're dealing with, there's a couple things like candles and Christmas trees and, holiday lights and all of that stuff, and unsafe toys that people need to be aware of. And the first thing is Christmas trees. Okay. You either can buy a real tree, a real live tree, or an artificial tree. If you go with the real live tree and you bring that into your house, well, those can dry out and cause residential fires. So you want to make sure that there's plenty of water, and those trees do suck up water. So you got to make sure that there's a lot of water in there so you don't dry out the tree. If you do think about buying an artificial tree this year or have one, you want to make sure that it has a flame resistant label on it, because that will help prevent residential fires. So look for that label, flame resistant label on a fire resistant label on your Christmas tree. Candles. Always be aware of those burning candles. I mean, it smells great with the pumpkin spice and the vanilla. And I love candles too, but you know what? They can be very dangerous. And you want to make sure that you don't put a candle next to anything that is like a curtain or something that could catch on fire, because when that catches on fire, that can spread and it can be deadly. The other important thing is, never leave a candle unattended. But if you do leave a room, make sure you blow out the candle first before you go outside the room. Don't, think I'm going to get to it later. No, because that few extra seconds or a minute later could become a problem and a hazard. Toy buying. Well, toy buying season has already started. I mean, I've seen already a lot of newscasts where they're saying people are going out there shopping already. I call it Shoptober because people have started Christmas shopping or holiday shopping really early these days. And so you want to make sure, for parents, listen closely, look at the box to make sure that the toy is age appropriate for the child. And if it's not, then don't even get it. You have to follow the guidance, because if you put the wrong toy in the wrong hands, it can be dangerous. There's a couple of other things I want to mention. Safety gear. If you're buying your child some motorized scooters or a bicycle or skates, put on that safety gear, put on that helmet, make sure the kids are safe when they're using that. Toys with small parts and small balls, you have to be on top of that stuff, because those can get into the kids' hands and into their mouth, and they can swallow them, and it can be a choking hazard. The other thing is a hidden hazard, but balloons. We have a party, we have balloons. Well, those balloons pop, they deflate, they go into little pieces, and that can be a problem too, because those can get into the kid's mouth and seal the passageway and airway, and that could be a choking hazard if they end up swallowing that. Toys with sharp edges are another big issue. Parents, look out for that. You got to be careful, and you got to get those toys out of their kids' hands. One last thing here, online shopping. You know what? You mentioned it. It's like, hey, there's lots of good deals out there. Well, be careful if you think that there are good deals, because you need to do your online shopping with a retailer that you trust and know, because you might end up with a counterfeit item. And that, you need to look at the packaging, you need to scrutinize the product and all of that stuff. Also look for, warning labels, look for certification marks from an independent testing organization. There's a couple of them out there, and the manufacturer labels on all electrical products. And we'll get to some cooking tips a little bit later.
Perfect. Now you touched a little bit on that lighting and protecting from fires. For us, you have so many lights going on the Christmas tree and around the banister and so forth. So I'm always so paranoid of a fire. So I use timers and outlets for the Christmas light trees. And I also use the surge protectors for multiple items being plugged in. Are those good safety measures too? Or is there something else we should be doing to protect those fires when so many things are being plugged into the outlets?
Well, I can tell you that just from my own use, I'm a little cautious too. I don't like to overly overload those outlets, because you never know. But what's really important though, is that you check. If you're going into your attic or your basement, you're grabbing a box of lights that you used the year before, and you want to make sure you plug those. Well, before you plug them in, check the lights. Look for any broken or cracked sockets. Look for any frayed or bare wires. And if you do see any of those, you want to discard that old light set. I mean, I don't even know how much lights are these days, but it's just not worth it for that sort of thing to happen. But I would certainly, we don't really get into that overloading, but I would be cautious. Just, my own personal recommendation is to be cautious of any kind of overloading, because you never know. I guess you have to look at the surge protectors, and you have to look at the electrical, requirements for that, and just be careful.
Okay. Yeah, I once heard a slogan, light up your tree, not your home. And that seems very applicable when it comes to those checking for those broken bulbs and everything. Now, Amy, how about to protect us from those home invasions and burglaries?
So the biggest thing with home security around the holidays, I would suggest leave your porch lights on all night. You can get energy efficient bulbs, but light is the #1 deterrent to crime. So if somebody is going to commit a crime, they most likely don't want to be seen. So if you can light up your residence, keep those porch lights on all night, have timer lights in the back, like if, what I'm trying to say is motion lights in the back, so that if somebody is back there, the motion lights will come on and can alert you that something is happening. Also, make sure that your doors and windows to your home are locked. Whether you're home or away, those doors and windows need to remain locked to keep the good users in the house and the bad users outside. We don't want people approaching a door and having easy entry in. You never know what somebody's intention is when they are at your door. So I would also say, if they're ringing your doorbell, like a solicitor or somebody delivering a package or anything like that, if you don't know who's at the door, don't answer it. Make sure you are aware of who is there. If you have scheduled somebody to come clean the carpets or spray for bugs or whatever, you know what time they're going to be there. They usually have identification or their car is marked or something like that. So you can expect them and open the door and feel comfortable opening the door. But if you don't know who's at the door, don't open it, and teach your kids the same, that they need to be respectful of understanding the security and making sure that we're not opening the door to somebody we don't know. During the holidays, many people have packages delivered to their home. That's another thing that you want to be careful of. If you do have a package delivered to your home, make sure that you're tracking it and make sure that you get it off your porch as soon as it's delivered. Unfortunately, if not, there are many porch pirates that will take advantage of packages sitting on a front porch. So you want to make sure to get that off your porch as soon as possible, or think about other ways that you can have packages delivered. You can deliver them to your work where you are and can sign for them and they're in your safety. You can deliver them to community lockers where you can pick them up at your own convenience. There are many ways that we can deliver packages now safely so that they aren't stolen. Also, make sure that you talk with your neighbors. If you're going to be out of town, tell your neighbors that you're going to be gone, so your trusted neighbors, so that they can watch out for your home while you're away. And if something is going on that's putting up red flags for them, then they can call the police department so the police can respond and find out what's happening at your home. You can do things like talk to a neighbor if you're going to be gone and have them mow the lawn if it's still fall, or if it's winter and you've got snow, make sure that somebody's plowing your walks so that it looks like you are there even if you aren't. Leave timers on those lights. Leave timers on so that there are lights and radio at the house, things like that. Even go as far as having your neighbors roll your garbage out to the sidewalk or to the curb if you are out. Even if there's nothing in that garbage can, it shows that it looks like somebody is living there. So make sure to do those things. Also, when talking about locks, I said earlier, make sure your doors and windows are locked. When you are talking about security and locks, you want to make sure that any door that goes from the outside of the house to the inside has a deadbolt lock. And deadbolt locks should have about 1.5 inch throw, if not longer. So if you open the door, lock it while it's open to see that deadbolt. It should be about 1.5 inches or longer. That just makes that lock and that door much more secure. You can also look at the screws that hold the strike plate in place. And the longer those screws are, the better secure that lock is as well. So those are easy fixes that anybody can do. They're not real expensive. And those will just secure your doors much, much better. Also, I think that people need to understand the importance of keeping their garage doors closed because that's an open invitation for a criminal to walk in and steal tools and machinery and golf clubs and bikes and things that are in our vehicle. And so make sure your garage door is closed and secured. And if you do go out of town, unplug that electric garage door so that it's not functioning while you're away. So those would be some things I would recommend to keep your home secure during the holidays.
I learned even just in prepping for this episode that my city has a vacation watch. So perhaps even looking to see if your city has a vacation watch that you can complete. I was really impressed by that. I thought I've lived here for how many years now and had no idea. So that's awesome. Now, this is so much to cover. Again, all of great tips for all of these holidays, but now let's kind of dive into breaking up each holiday as they each have their own unique safety tips about them, right? So Judy, let's start right out with Halloween. Everyone's getting in those cute costumes, and we personally as a family do themed costumes, which I'm afraid my high schooler daughter might not be doing anymore. She's kind of outgrowing that one. But what should we be aware of when it comes to choosing our costumes?
You know, it's fun to see the costumes. The Halloween stores are already piling up and they're opening their doors and having, the public go and start shopping. And I love to see all that stuff. But, wearing a costume is very important to make sure that costume fits you. If it is baggy and too loose or too long, well, that can be a problem because you can easily trip and fall. Your kids can easily trip and fall over that. Also, be careful with any kind of loose flowing fabrics because that can be a fire hazard. You know how like some people have their pumpkins out and maybe, there's a little flame that gets too close. Well, if there's a ton of people knocking on your door and your costume is a little long with flowy material, it could catch on fire. So be careful of that. And especially costumes made of polyester or nylon fabric, not the sheer cotton or rayon fabric, because those are bad. But the costumes made of polyester and nylon fabric reduce the fire hazard. If you didn't know that, I mean, that's important. So use the polyester or nylon fabric ones. And any fabric though, just know that if it comes in contact with any kind of fire or flames, it can cause fire to spread up to, the rest of the body. So be careful with that. But those are our costume tips.
Okay. We definitely learned a few years ago, my son has very sensitive skin, and we learned take off the makeup before you go to bed. When we woke up, it was not pretty. So definitely we learned that one. And then of course, what other tips might you share with us, Judy, just about trick-or-treating in general? I've always shared with my kids, I am going with you. I don't care if it's embarrassing to have your mom or not, you need to have an adult present. So what are some other tips just for trick-or-treating in general to be safe?
That's a good point, Holly. When I see kids knocking on my door on Halloween and there's no parent and the kids are like minors, that's a concern. So that's a good tip for parents to be, go along with your kids for that and keep them safe. Well, I mean, there's some really important data I want to share with your listeners. Over the past 3 years, CPSC estimates that there are about 3,600 Halloween-related injuries where people have been treated in U.S. emergency rooms because of, problems with falling and tripping and, taking down decorations, trick-or-treating. And, as you mentioned, your son had a problem. Well, even allergic reactions and rashes due to injuries from certain things, I guess, lacerations, ingestions. I mean, there's a slew of injuries that can occur, and that's why people have been sent to the emergency room during Halloween. And 56%, by the way, were 18 and older, 44% were under 18, and about 6% of the injuries were children 2 years and younger. So you definitely have to be careful with that. If you want me to get into it, just make sure that you're, again, safe with those costumes. Be careful where you're, walking. I'm sure Officer Amy can talk more about, what they need to do out there with the little trick-or-treaters and the parents, guiding them through the streets during this busy time.
Yeah, Amy, I always get nervous being out there just driving, as it can be hard to see some of those dark costumes, especially later in the evening. So any tips for us motorists on those roads on Halloween?
Yeah, that's a huge concern that we have as well as a law enforcement agency is people that are driving on Halloween and little kids that sometimes don't understand the hazards of running into a roadway. They're excited to be out trick-or-treating. Sometimes their costume makes them less cognizant of those safety things because it's a holiday, it's fun. Maybe they're dressed as a superhero and so they think they are a superhero. But they have to, as a driver, as a motorist, I would say on Halloween, you need to cut your speeds way down. Make sure that you have your lights on. If you need to have your brights on as you're traveling through the neighborhood, that's okay. But making sure that you're watching out for those little ones that are out and about. And as pedestrians on Halloween, as parents, as children that are out in the neighborhoods, we also have a responsibility that we need to watch out for the motorists that are on the road. We need to use the sidewalks. If we're crossing the street, we should cross at a crosswalk. and making sure that when we do cross, that we make eye contact with the motorist that's driving the vehicle so that each person knows that one or the other is going to be going. Too many times people just step out onto a sidewalk or onto a crosswalk, excuse me, and don't really even wait for the passing cars to slow and stop. So we have to be sure that we do those things. Also, with Halloween, I would just say, make sure you pull your decorations in, especially your pumpkins and things. Pull those in when you are turning in for the evening. We have a lot of vandalism that happens on Halloween night. People taking those pumpkins, smashing them on the road, maybe throwing them at mailboxes. Also, people will leave those pumpkins burning, and you never know if a wind comes up and knocks that over and it catches on some leaves or something, so there's fires. So be cautious that way. Make sure that the kids are traveling with an adult. Oftentimes, unfortunately, there are people who opt to scare the little ones or steal their candy bags, and that makes for not a very fun Halloween if those things happen. But usually if they're accompanied by an adult, we don't see those things happening. So make sure that the costumes have some type of, maybe even wearing a glow stick around your neck so that you're more visibly seen, or, you know, costumes can have reflectors on them, but make sure that you're doing something so that you can be seen in those dark hours.
All right. Yeah, I'll add on to that too, Holly. Great tips from Amy. Visibility is definitely key. And like Amy mentioned, glow sticks are good. Also, you know, travel with a battery operated flashlight, you know, anything that you can flash a light and let somebody know that you're there. And also, you know, there's reflective tape out there. So go ahead and put it on your costume. You want to make sure, parents, this is really key for your little ones. You want to make sure that cars and drivers can see your little loved ones as they're trick-or-treating, and it becomes not a tragedy, but a fun event. I mean, I read something a few years ago in the newspaper. It was a father taking his children out to go trick-or-treating, and unfortunately, it ended really badly because there was a motorist that was, you know, driving through and didn't see the family. So yeah, that's very, very important that people be careful. Yeah, this is you know, a reminder not only for those trick-or-treating, but it is a reminder for those behind the wheel.
Right. Now let's transition over to Thanksgiving then. So Judy, you mentioned earlier food would be involved. So I imagine many of your tips will be based around the food, especially the turkey.
Indeed, you know, that's a great time. We're all getting together. We're cooking the turkey. We're making the fixins, baking the pies, all of that wonderful stuff. You know, you pointed out a good data a few minutes ago. Cooking fires, they remain the #1 cause of residential fires. That's because people get distracted when they're doing all this stuff. And, you know, you're sharing a meal, you, again, don't want to end up with a tragic situation. So yes, cooking tips, never, and I can never say this enough, don't ever leave any food in the oven or on the stove unattended, because you get distracted, time flies, and what do you have? You have a tragedy. Only fry a turkey outside, and don't do it in the house. Don't do it near the house. Don't do it in the garage, and don't do it on a porch. If you're going to fry your turkey and use a turkey fryer, make sure it's far away from your house. And just, you have to really be conscious of that, because, you know, it's not everybody uses a turkey fryer all the time, and so they don't know all the rules, but on average, 1,700 cooking fires occur on Thanksgiving Day each year, and that's more than 3 times the average number of cooking fires on any other day of the year. And turkey fires do create particular risk. Since 1998, CPSC is aware of 222 fires, and that involves scalding burn incidents involving those turkey fryers and resulting in 83 injuries and $9.7 million in property loss. So be careful out there.
What about those leftovers? Any tips on making sure that we stay safe and avoiding the food poisoning?
Ooh, that would be another agency that discusses that one, Holly. But, you know, we all probably know that we should be careful with spoiled food.
Yes, yes. Washing hands, keeping raw away from already prepared
Yes.
food.
We've
Absolutely.
learned a lot during the pandemic about all of that stuff.
Haven't we? So true.
Yes.
Now, Amy, that Black Friday, which now seems to be moved up to Thanksgiving, I'm sure brings with it some more safety concerns for shopping. Anything you'd like to share with us that pertains to that Thanksgiving timeframe?
Sure, absolutely. I would say with when you're thinking about shopping with Thanksgiving and Black Friday, make sure that you're not overloading yourself with packages when you're out and about. That can make it hard to be aware of your surroundings. If you are loaded with packages or you have kids in tow with your packages, all of a sudden you're distracted and you're not paying attention to what's going on around you at all. So take those packages out. Don't overwhelm yourself with them. Make sure that you secure them in your vehicle and that they're hidden, or take them home with you. But also be careful carrying around a large amount of cash, or carrying your purse or your wallet. I mean, you do need to carry money to pay for these things that you're purchasing, but doesn't mean that you need to show that off to everybody. So
Right.
if you do have a purse, make sure that you're carrying it close to your body. If you can, put it up and over your shoulder and under one arm. That's the best because it's right there on your body. Nobody's usually going to choose to try to steal that from you because they're going to take you with it. They'd rather run and grab somebody's purse who is not paying attention and it's just draped down by their side. So try to do that, or wear something that's close to your body, that's a smaller type of purse where you're only carrying small amounts of things. With a wallet, make sure that you're carrying it in your front pocket rather than your back pocket to avoid pickpocketers. That will be helpful. Also, you don't need to carry every debit and credit card and social security card and everything with you. Just take what you need for that time, and use that so that you're not carrying all that money with you. But don't leave things in your vehicle because you don't want to carry it with you in the shopping center, because that's not very good either. Also, when you're out shopping, if you have your kids with you, make sure they understand the rules of staying close to mom and dad, or whoever is taking them shopping. They might get excited. Maybe they see Christmas decorations in the shopping center, or they see something that they've really wanted to ask for and they want to go take a look at it, and they don't think about, I just walked away from my loved one and now I'm lost, or I should say the parent is lost. So make sure that those kids understand, hey, if we get separated, here's what you need to do. You need to find a trusted adult. Trusted adult might be somebody that works there, or a security guard, or another set of parents that you see with their children. A child approaching a stranger asking for help is much safer than a stranger that is approaching a child. So they need to understand how they can get help if they are separated from mom and dad. And then I would just say, as far as Thanksgiving goes, Thanksgiving is one of those holidays where we usually have a lot of family that is in a small area. We're all together. And sometimes that can cause for friction. Not always, but sometimes it can cause for friction. And we respond to a lot of domestic calls on holidays, especially Thanksgiving. So just make sure, maybe keep conversations where it's a fun topic. Maybe watch how much you're drinking so that things don't get out of hand that way. And those are good tips to keep in mind for Thanksgiving.
That really surprises me. I would have thought that it would have been New Year's more for the domestic violence. So that's interesting that it's Thanksgiving is where you see most of that. I did see a great tip the other day for a craft with parents and their kids of doing those little beaded bracelets where they spell out the child's name and the phone number, and then they put it on the child before they go Black Friday shopping or Christmas shopping out with their family. And that way, if they were to get lost, or I love the perspective instead of if the parents get lost, then they have their name and their phone number right there, so that whomever is helping them has a better way of being able to track down that lost parent. So good tips there. Now, moving right into Christmas, let's talk gifts. Now, Judy, you shared with us earlier, thousands of children are seriously injured in toy-related incidents every year. So what are you shared some tips with us. What other Christmas tips would you have? I know one that I've seen majorly is helmets. So many people kids especially getting bikes, and hopefully they're given a helmet, but even if they are, it doesn't always fit, which is also a concern. So what other tips might you have to keep the gift giving safe this year?
Yeah, that's true. Helmets, you have to make sure they do fit, because if they're too big, then that doesn't serve the purpose. So parents, you need to check that out. But as you mentioned, lots of toy related injuries and deaths occur and impact thousands of children each year. In 2020, there were nearly 150,000 toy-related emergency department treated injuries and 9 deaths among children ages 14 and younger. So, I bring these stats up and this data up because that's why we're talking about tips and safety, because it's key to not be one of those statistics. And non-motorized scooters, they account for about 21% of all toy-related emergency department treated injuries as well. So helmets are important if you're going to be on a bicycle or a scooter or, skates. Pad yourself up, and parents, get the safety gear, but also make sure the kids wear it, because, if it's sitting in the corner and they're not putting it on, that doesn't do any good. But particularly it's, again, the toys. Make sure that the parents look at the packaging, follow age guidance and safety information on there. It's on there for a reason, and you don't want to get the wrong toy in the wrong child's hand. But I can't stress enough the small parts, the small balls that often end up in a child's mouth, and you have to keep those away from kids that are under 3 years old, because they put everything in their mouth and they don't know, and it may look like a piece of candy, but it can certainly lodge there, affect the airways. We talked about this earlier. It's just a problem. But we do see a lot of balloon issues, and as I mentioned, that's a hidden hazard. You have a balloon up and it pops and it goes into, I remember when I was a kid, I play with these little bits and pieces, but you don't know, it can go into your mouth, down your throat, cause a choking hazard, and a parent may not even be aware of it, and then all of a sudden look around and see their child is not breathing. So that's very key. But definitely watch out for those sharp edges on toys. You can go find a toy and then feel around it, and it has a sharp edge, and if the kid has a soft skin around there, can easily get cut, and you don't want to end up, having the child bleeding on the sidewalk or in the corner of the house without a parent realizing it, and it's too late. So all of those are important. Toys, that data can be eye-opening. So parents need to be aware, toys are great. Gift giving season is upon us, but be careful.
Yeah, batteries and magnets, I noticed just as a mom, have been one too, that as my little ones would always try to grab for those. In fact, now looking back as a parent, that first year, I wish I would have just given my daughter a ribbon. You buy all these gifts, and your parents buy all these gifts, and aunts and uncles and so forth, and all they want is the ribbon. So it doesn't have to be more complicated than that really is. I do like back in, years ago, I was working at a shopping mall, and it was interesting after Christmas how many of certain gifts I noticed returned. And I wasn't at those stores, but we would receive, working for mall management, we would receive complaints of certain items sold and how they were causing hazard to the kids or injuries and so forth. So I have learned throughout the years to do my research, on some of those things that need to be plugged in or might seem too good to be true, to go in and look online and do that research on that toy and what statistics are there on injuries.
Yeah,
and
that's a good point.
So
Definitely, Holly. Yeah. We're lucky we live in this, this age and this generation where information is at our fingertips. So I would say yes. Research, research, research. Look at those toys. Look at the box. Look at the information. Do your homework before it's preventative measures that you're taking. So before any tragedies occur.
I will comment that I'll put in the show notes that the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission has a great link on there for recalls also. So their website, I'll go ahead and list in the show notes for safety and recall information. Now, Amy, I think we covered most of what would also be your safety tips for shopping for Christmas, as they tend to relate with Black Friday and Thanksgiving. So unless you have something else, I'm going to move us into that New Year's. And again, I was shocked with the number of domestic violence. So that's where I would have thought would be here. But what do we need to watch for New Year's? Of course, I would think then number one would probably move into the drunk driving and how people get concerned about being out. I know our family gets concerned about being out on the road. So take that away for us and help us be safe for New Year's.
And if I can, I'll backtrack just one more thing on Christmas. And we were talking a lot about choosing the right gifts to give and the right toys. But I would say at Christmas, when you have all the trash from the toy boxes, or the TVs that you get, or the laptops or whatever, break those down. Don't advertise through your trash what you have in your house. So that would be my last tip that I did want to throw in there, is break all that stuff down so you're not advertising what you just bought that is now in your home. Okay. Yes, you're welcome. Now jumping into New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, both. The biggest concern definitely would be driving under the influence of some type of narcotic or some type of drink. So make sure that you are responsible. There are many services out there that will provide rides. And now with Lyft and Uber and all these things, just right at our fingertips, really utilize those services to make sure that you get to where you're going safely. Make sure that if you're, out at a party, I would say, make sure that you're always watching your drink. Make sure it's always in your hand, so that there's not a chance of anybody putting any substance into that beverage. So make sure, watch that drink always. If you leave for any reason, get a new drink, start over. Don't have anybody get your drink for you. You go with them to get your drink. Those kinds of tips, I think, will be very helpful for people on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. It is a time that people do like to celebrate. We do see a lot of crowds at those times. So make sure that you're paying attention in the crowds. If you are seeing something suspicious, you need to report those things to the law enforcement agency where you're at, to make sure that everything goes well and we all stay safe on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
I love these tips that you're sharing, because they make me think of a season that I love to watch, or a series I love to watch, of Chicago PD, Chicago Med, and Chicago Fire. And my daughter gives me a hard time of, Mom, you are so addicted to these shows. And I tell her, they teach me. There are so many things that I wouldn't know. And as you're reading through these or listing these, I'm thinking, yeah, I saw that on this episode, or yeah, I know how to handle that with this episode. So they're so very practical things that we need to be aware of. But yeah, so often we overlook. So great insights. Now, ladies, we have a signature question here on Holly's Highlights. If you could go back and encourage, inspire, or equip yourself as a child, what would you tell your young self? Judy, how about we start with you?
Well, as I've been sort of preaching the whole time, making safety a priority for your life. Err on the side of caution always. We're blessed with, our limbs, our eyes, and we want to keep all of those intact. And I said it earlier, I'll say it again, but we live in the 21st century where information is at our fingertips. And knowledge is power. It sounds cliche, but you can find everything you need, advice online. You can go to our site and equip yourself with that information. Learn from the safety experts. Officer Bryant shared some great information. I mean, for me as well. And share them with others. You know, what you know, share it with other people. But also, my little self, I would tell myself, listen to the experts, listen to my parents. They want nothing but the best for me. They love me and they want to make sure that I am staying safe.
True. Very true. How about for you, Miss Amy?
Mine's maybe not even topic related, but first I would tell myself to invest in Amazon.
I love it.
Me too.
Oh, I thought about that when I read that question. I'm like, what would I do? I would go back and say, Amy, invest in Amazon. But no, in all seriousness,
I think that one is a serious one.
I would definitely say to equip myself better with life lessons. So learning from those life lessons that you've had and, you know, implementing them into your life and passing on those life lessons to others, I think is important. And, you know, as I've lived my life and I have 2 kids now that are a little bit older, and I hope that, you know, some of the life lessons I've learned, I've been able to pass on to them. But I would really encourage myself to look for those life lessons through others and see, you know, somebody that you want to be like and emulate that person and do what they do. So if they're successful, if they're happy, if, you know, then do what they do and learn from them. And I would definitely say, you know, in the common education that we get, I don't think that we learn enough about certain things, about financial things, about those life lessons, I guess. But I would say, boy, I wish I would have known what I know now 20 years ago. So
there is so much value in that. My mom has always told us kids to be a mentor and have a mentor. And the lesson of her point there was to learn from someone else, soak it in exactly like what you're saying, but then just don't sit there and saturate in it, but pour it and invest it into someone else. So much value in that. I recently heard a quote that I liked. It's from an unknown author of working safely, of being safe, may get old, but so do those who practice it. I thought that was kind of an interesting
that makes a lot of sense.
It does, doesn't it? Ladies, we cannot thank you enough for taking the time to share such wise counsel today. So thank you for all that you do and the impact you make in our communities, and for encouraging us, inspiring us, and equipping us to have a safe and happy holiday season.
Thank you,
Holly. Thanks, Judy.
Thank you, Amy. Take care and happy holidays.
You too. Bye.